I am working from home here in Italy, otherwise known as smart working, which is the term that tends to get used in this country. And I've got to be honest with you, it is the first time in my life that I have ever worked in this way. I've always had a place of work to go to or to work out of. So it has taken a little bit of getting used to. And I thought it would be really interesting in today's video to dive deep into some of the lessons that I'm learning from this whole process. Because no doubt some of you who may very well be moving to Italy will be faced with a very similar situation. More and more Italian companies now are offering this possibility to their employees, as well as kind of international companies. And if you have a digital nomad visa, then of course you'll be very used to this way of life. But you see, it does come with a few caveats, because if you have never worked in this way before, I do think you have to prepare yourself for some of the so-called cons to smart working. And so, wrapped up in a bow, let's talk about some of these lessons that I'm currently navigating working from home here in Italy. The first lesson that I am learning is that there is real power in creating your environment. Now, I've talked about environment before because it is something that I have really come to learn has a profound impact on how you feel and on your physical and mental health. In fact, I talk about it in a bit more detail in this video up here if you want to go and watch that next. But essentially, this whole move back to the Salerno province from Palermo really highlighted for me just how important our environment really is. I feel so much more energized and rejuvenated since moving back here compared to a few months ago back in Palermo. Now, I've got to be honest with you, when it comes to working, I absolutely love the fact that I get to create my own working environment. Everything down to the decoration of my office, to the type of lighting that I use, to any background music that I might choose to put on during the course of the day, to the people that I may surround myself with during any given day. It is all within my control, and I absolutely love that, because when you work in an office or in any other kind of establishment, you are at the mercy of that place as to the conditions that you find yourself in. You do not necessarily have the freedom and flexibility to come in and decorate your office or to put on the kind of lighting that you want to have. You have to work with what is provided. Now, when I was teaching in presence at school, I used to work under really white, bright lights, but I don't like those kinds of lights. They give me a headache. They make me feel exhausted because they're just really, really harsh lights to spend hours working under. And I used to finish at the end of the day and just feel like absolutely torn apart because I'd been working under these bright lights for hours. I am definitely a soft lighting kind of girl. Like, I love the warm lights. I love candles. This is the kind of ambience that I like to create. And so I get to do that now in my working space, and it makes me feel so good. And you know, when you feel good, that comes across in the work that you produce as well. It does have this kind of knock-on effect. So I am so happy that I get to control my working environment in terms of how it looks, in terms of the organization, in terms of the tidiness and cleanliness. It's all within my control, and trust me, that makes me feel so good. In fact, I've been looking at ways to enhance my working space even more, because now this is where I am predominantly, Monday through to Saturday. I am really looking at ways of making my experience a lot more comfortable. So I've got like a footrest, I've got like a stand for my laptop, so it's at an angle, which is better for my eyesight and for my back position. And then I want to get maybe like a wrist rest and just little things that are going to add to the comfort of my working experience, which you don't necessarily benefit from when you work in an office, or if you go to a place but you don't have a specific designated space and you are just kind of in whatever room is available. You do not have the possibility to have these little luxuries. So I'm really, really happy that I have this within my control. I'm also really happy that the people that I choose to surround myself with in my working day is now also within my control. When you work in any kind of workplace, you cannot control the people that are around you, whether that be, clients, suppliers, colleagues, whoever it may be. You are not in control of the people that you will meet during the course of your day. Whereas now I am. And I love this because I have noticed that in any kind of workplace, wherever you may be in the world, there is usually a level of toxicity. There is usually some kind of office politics at play. There is usually a lot of gossip and backstabbing and two-faced behavior. Like, it's natural workplace characteristics, but I don't have to be a part of any of that anymore. I'm in my very own bubble, and I've got to be honest with you, it feels amazing. I am a very sensitive person in the sense that I pick up on the energy of people and of places. And for me, when I'm in an environment that feels quite toxic or the energy just feels a little bit off, it impacts me and it brings my energy levels down. So the fact that now I have this control over my space and over the people that I choose to see over the course of a week is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it has definitely helped me to feel so much better within myself. So this is an absolutely wonderful aspect of working from home, in my opinion, is this sense of control that you do have over your space and over the people that you actually get to have interactions with. The second, really lovely thing that I'm learning from this whole experience is just how much more time it is freeing up for me. Now, when I lived in Palermo, I didn't have a very long commute to my place of work. Like, it used to take me around 30 minutes on foot. And whilst, that doesn't sound too bad, consider that I used to do that a couple of times during the course of a day when I'd have large gaps in my day with 2 or 3 hours with nothing to do. Rather than staying at my place of work, I would come back home or I would go and do something else. And so you have to consider that if I was doing that a couple of times in a day, that's a minimum 1 hour of commute and potentially up to 2 hours if I were to go back and forth like that. And for me, I was all too aware that I wasn't using my time in the best way. As much as I tried to multitask and listen to a podcast or something inspirational during my commute, I knew that I could also be doing something else if only I didn't have to do it. So to have this extra time now is amazing. To not have to use my time in a way that doesn't feel productive makes me feel really good. I'm a double Virgo. I'm all about productivity and making the most of the time that I have. And so this is a really wonderful aspect because now I've got more time to focus on hobbies, interests, and the things that light me up. And I think this is another huge advantage of working from home. You don't use your time in a dead way. Like, you can be as productive as you want to be with your time, or even if you just want to relax and do nothing, you also have that possibility in any kind of gaps or breaks that you have during the course of your day, but also without the need to have to commute. I mean, it's not so bad going to work, but it's always coming home that feels the toughest, especially if you've got a long commute. So this is a really, really wonderful part that I'm getting used to, absolutely, the extra time I've got available and how I can use that in the best possible way. And tied into that is, of course, the fact that if you're working from home, you're not having to pay out for bus fares or train tickets or, petrol or diesel, depending on your car. So that's a really wonderful thing as well. Now, I have to be honest with you, it is offset by the fact that maybe you pay more for supplies at home, like electricity and gas in the winter months, particularly, because you are here solely, you're not leaving the house, you're using the supplies at all times. But I will say that, you can get good deals. So our electricity, for example, we got a really good deal. It's a fixed cost rather than it being variable, because although I could benefit some months with much lower bills, I could also be at risk of the bills escalating and becoming higher later on, depending on the unit price of electricity. Now, in order to keep my bills pretty stable, so I know what I'm spending every single month, a fixed cost has turned out to be a brilliant idea, because I know that this is the fixed unit cost of electricity, and it means that if the prices skyrocket for everybody else, it's not going to impact me. But it is a really, really beautiful thing. And I do think overall you save more money than you actually spend in this way. And of course, I am really loving the fact that you have a lot more flexibility in your day. If you have a couple of hours free or 1 hour free, you may have the possibility to pop out and run some errands or to do some other things that you need to do. Whereas if you are stuck at work, you may not have that possibility. Some companies as well will even allow you to travel whilst you are smart working, as long as you tell them where you're going to, as long as you have a stable internet connection, whatever stipulations they put in place. Other companies companies aren't as flexible like that. They want you to be working from a place that they know. But for some people, they have this possibility as well to also travel whilst working, which is really the dream, isn't it? It's that whole digital nomad life that some people aspire to live. So there are, in my opinion, many great aspects of working from home. And I'm really starting to lean into them and get into a flow. I think it's really important to have a routine. This is something that I'm starting to realize. Like, even if I don't start work into the afternoon one day, from the morning, I'm ready. I'm dressed, I'm ready to go. Because I find with a routine, you become more productive and you use the time that you do have in a better way. I'm not one to kind of veg out on the sofa for hours and get ready at the last minute. It's this, isn't it? Like, you do need to create a routine for yourself when you work from home, because your day will be structured a little bit differently. But I think there are many wonderful things from this kind of, working life having been created post-pandemic, especially because it does give people a lot more possibility and opportunity of that elusive work-life balance. I don't think work-life balance is something that can be 100% achieved, just to digress a little bit. But, there are steps that can be taken that help to make you feel a little bit more centered. And I think working from home is definitely something. However, I will say it does depend on whether or not you have a specific working space. Now, I have a separate office, which I am so thankful for. So it means that when I finish my day, I can close the door and it's like I'm leaving. Now, I used to do this when I was teaching in presence. I would close the door of the classroom to mentally check off, because I was finding it really difficult to switch off at the end of the day and to let go of any kind of drama or negativity or whatever else might have been going on. So being able to close the door was just like that mental switch to be like, okay, that's your day done. But I get to do that now at home, which is a really, really important thing, because if you don't do that, especially if you are working from home, it can be very, very difficult to feel fully relaxed. And I remember reading, and I cannot remember where I read it. So if this philosophy sounds familiar to you, which I'm about to share with you, and you know where it comes from, please tell me below in the comments. But essentially, I remember reading somewhere that every object in your home should have a specific use, and it should have one use. And the reason for that is that your brain then associates that object with that particular activity. So for example, your sofa in most people's homes is a place of rest, but some people also double up and use it as a place of work as well. But this is where you start to send mixed messages to your brain. Your brain no longer feels relaxed on the sofa because there's a part of it that thinks it should be working. And so that is why it's really important to have a specific use for every single object in your house. And I kind of feel like if you have an office, you have that specific use, and you know that every time you go into that room, you are a bit more focused, it's the place to work and to concentrate, and then it frees up the rest of the house to be the place of relaxation that you may want it to be. So I think working from home can be difficult if you don't have a special designated place, but I think if you can create one, even if it's just a fold out table or it's a specific table that you only use for work, this can help you in some way, because then if you don't use it at any point when you're not working, your brain makes the association that that is your work corner and everywhere else in your house is the place of relaxation. And I think this is so important, because you must switch off after work. Like, when you're working from home, you have to create that degree of separation, because otherwise it can leave you feeling more exhausted than if you were traveling to the office, for example. I also think as well, it can be tricky, and this is something that I'm navigating at the moment, in terms of having less interaction with people when you work from home, particularly if you work from home on your own. Now, on one hand, this can be a good thing. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I really do enjoy my own company. As I've said before, I am very sensitive to people's energy. And so sometimes people can be energy vampires and they can suck that energy from me. And so sometimes I prefer to be in my own company. However, that said, I do enjoy socializing and speaking with people and interacting with people in this way. It's a healthy part of communication and of your everyday life. And whilst I get to do that through the different lessons that I teach during the course of a day, it's not quite the same as being in presence with somebody and actually having a face-to-face conversation. So for me personally, I have to make sure that I am putting myself into as many in presence possibilities as possible. Like, for example, making sure that I'm leaving the house every day, going to the local shop or to the bar or speaking with people, you know, like making sure that at a weekend I'm going out, I'm not just staying at home. Like, really and truly trying to push myself to leave the house as much as possible and to have those in-presence connections and interactions with people is really, really important, because I do think if you're not careful, you can lead quite an isolated life in this way, particularly if you are living here in Italy, you don't know many people, you've just moved to an area, you've got to push yourself out of your comfort zone, which is your house, and get out and start creating those connections with people and start frequenting local places and getting to know people that live close to you. Because otherwise I feel like your life becomes quite limited. So this is something that I'm having to work through at the moment. I really enjoy the fact that, you know, I have time in my own company, but I also know that I need to balance that out a little bit more and make sure that I'm still having enough interactions with people to keep the balance a healthy one. And then, of course, there's health as well, because especially if you're smart working and you're on the computer, you've got to make sure that you're taking adequate breaks. This is something that I have to be especially careful of, because I work online all day, and I also do other activities like create YouTube videos and things like this online. So I have to make sure that I am taking appropriate breaks. I'm not just staring at a screen 24/7. I'm actually getting out into nature. I'm spending time outdoors. I'm creating that kind of balance in this way. It's really, really important, because I think there is a danger with smart working, which I think won't be discovered until many years into the future, where people who are staring at screens all day, every day, not really moving very much, living quite a sedentary life, they are going to encounter health problems in the future. And so I'm all too aware that it is about trying to retain physical activity in my day, interactions with people, and making sure that I don't spend all my day staring at a screen. I actually have that separation, and I actually make sure that I am taking in what's around me as much as what is on my computer screen. But overall, I am really happy to be working in this way. It is something that has given me a lot more freedom and it's made me feel a lot happier. And I'm really, really pleased that this is now a possibility and a way for so many people to work, because I think it has also opened up windows of opportunity for people who want to move to Italy as well, who perhaps are, you know, wouldn't necessarily find a job here in Italy, but are able to keep their current one on a remote basis. So I think, you know, there are many advantages to this, even though there are a few cons. I do think it is a way of working that is teaching me a lot. And I hope that you have gained something from today's video, in case it too is a way of working that you will experience. I will see you in the next video.